Hi Simon, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Preetesh. How are you?
Very good. Hey, all the best. Simon, thank you so much for joining us. Before
Mhm.
we start our chats, I'd like to welcome everyone that's joining us from across Africa and the Middle East. We're so happy to have all of you with us and appreciate your time as well. So this chat is now happening on Zoom, but it's also going live on Facebook to our entire 11,500 uh, audience on Facebook itself. So if you haven't been able to actually get on Zoom, please feel free to tune in on Facebook as well. One of the key things we've been doing at Loeries this year, and our key focus has been on creating change, being a key focus in a lot that we're doing. And as part of that change, we have a new partner on board, and that's Tractor Outdoor. And we're honored to have the CEO of Tractor with us, who's Simon Wall. I'm going to give, before we start chatting to Simon, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background of Simon. So Simon has a career that spans almost 2 decades and across multiple continents. Simon Wall is CEO and founding shareholder of Tractor Outdoor, one of the largest independent media owners in South Africa, which specializes in connecting brands to consumers through its network of out-of-home and digital out-of-home inventory. Passionate about technology and innovation, particularly within the out-of-home media space, Simon's career trajectory has seen him working on projects in Portugal, Germany, Hong Kong, Dubai, Oman, Maldives, Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, and of course, South Africa as well. With a degree in marketing from the University of Cape Town, Simon began his career in 2001 at Old Mutual Properties. There he established Pop Communications, a new division of the financial services and property giant, and South Africa's very first mall-focused media sales house. Following on from his stint at Old Mutual, Simon spent the next 4 years at Dubai headquartered Go Media as business development manager for the region, specifically looking after outdoor advertising concessions in Dubai, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. The opportunity gave him a broad understanding of one of the most competitive outdoor markets in the world before he relocated to Hong Kong, where he was appointed as the sales and marketing manager for Vertical Asia, a leading outdoor advertising manufacturing business. Upon returning to Cape Town, Simon focused on growing the Tractor brand in South Africa in a build-up to the 2010 World Cup, and today heads up the company as CEO. Simon is responsible for identifying and developing new business opportunities for the group, overseeing the strategic direction of the business, as well as all new business acquisitions. And there goes my voice. A strong proponent of the power of creativity and industry-wide collaboration, Simon believes that it is only through the collective application of skills, experience, and expertise that truly holistic solutions can be achieved. With an innate desire to uplift those around him, Simon maintains that in order for Tractor or any business to succeed, the community in which it calls home needs to thrive. He's a big believer in social entrepreneurship and the necessity for business and the broader industry to assist in the design, funding, and implementation of solutions that address socioeconomic challenges. Simon Wall, welcome to Loeries Creative Hour. So good to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. That bio was a lot quicker when I read it. It seemed to...
I think the secret is when you're hearing about yourself, it always feels a lot longer. But this was
Yeah.
fascinating. I mean, you have had a very interesting career across the world. I mean, what was it like working in all of those different markets like Hong Kong and Pakistan, such vastly different markets?
Yeah, look, I was fortunate enough one of the founding shareholders of Tractor was an Australian gentleman, Adam Whitford, and he had actually, obviously he's based in Melbourne, and he's had a lot of his businesses was based in Hong Kong and obviously in the Middle East, and it was amazing. It really was. Like, I mean, being based in Dubai, specifically at the time in sort of 2002, 2003, when the city was really starting to blossom, was incredible. I mean, I would leave Dubai for 2 months and come back, and there'd be an entire precinct built in one area, and obviously with that, a number of new opportunities in terms of advertising. But it was a bit of a baptism of fire working in those areas, largely because it was before the time of, internet and those kind of things where people knew where sites were and how to book sites. And so my position there was largely to book international campaigns for clients who were looking to advertise in the likes of Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and those areas, and actually who didn't know who the contacts were to actually work in those areas. So yeah, definitely the market's matured a lot more now, and it's a lot more robust. And and those were the days when you didn't really know who the media owner was. There was normally about 11 people in the food chain by the time you actually got to the site. Nowadays, it's a lot easier to find out who's who. So it's a lot easier to deal with that.
Yeah, I think as time goes on, at least things ease up as you build systems and processes. So I think that's one of the good things on that side as well. One of the things I also want to do is just say hello to a few people. I think just to acknowledge, I can't go through all the names, but Kobus Totoy, Lee Andrews, Crystal Felsman, Peter Nganga, Precious Masilela, Steve Duck. Maybe you might recognize some of these names, but just to everyone who's joining us today on Zoom and across Facebook as well, thank you for being with us. Sorry I can't get everyone's names, but if you do want to chat with us, there is a chat function on Zoom for those who are joining us on Zoom. Please share your comments there. If you're on Facebook, you can leave your comments and we can read it later. And also there's a Q&A function if you do have any questions for Simon as well. So Simon, obviously having this vast experience across a wide geographic network around the world must be fascinating, but also you must still have lots of really good relationships in those areas and people being impacted by COVID-19 and the challenges we're experiencing now. Are you picking up many stories, lots of people contacting you and having discussions about how they're dealing with it in different areas?
Weirdly enough, not as much as I used to, but at the moment, I've been in contact with a few of them, and I think it's the same the world over. Everyone's battling to deal with this, and I think everyone's, the fact is that we're in an industry that sells to our audiences in the streets, and for the last 3 to 4 months, our audience hasn't been in the streets. So, it's been a real struggle to try and kind of reinvigorate our business. But the nice thing about our industry, in particular, out of home industry, is that we're a bounce back medium. We're the medium that people use between out of home and television when people are, at the end of, if we look at any great catastrophe that's happened globally, whether it's World War II or 9/11, what people remember is the television and out of home billboards coming out and obviously, speaking about how they got out of those issues. So, it's a lot of my work that I was doing, particularly in that area, was in airports. We had the rights for the Karachi airport, and the Islamabad airport, and the Bandaranaike airport in Sri Lanka. So you can imagine what those stories are. There's no audience there at the moment. So unfortunately, a lot of those have shut down. Those concessions are no longer operational. So, fortunately, our business doesn't operate particularly in many airports. So we haven't felt that pinch, but a lot of my contemporaries that do operate those concessions over there have had a torrid time, obviously dealing with a shutdown and the ban ultimately of flying.
But I mean, also on a personal level, how are you coping with this? I mean, I know as a business owner, this is tough, leading an entire organization. How's it affected you, and how's it affected your business in this time?
So, I mean, look, so we started work from home probably a little bit earlier than most. Sort of mid-March, we decided as a group to send everyone home and start working from home. And I think from about mid-March, sort of mid to late March, we sat down, myself and my ex-co and our team, and we deliberately told guys to stop selling and actually stop pushing sites, stop pushing advertising. It was all about being empathetic and rather contacting clients and reaching out how we can help them. I think for the last, particularly April, May, and June, we did a lot reaching out to clients to see if we could actually help them in any way, shape, or form, whether it was taking rental breaks or deferring payments or deferring campaigns, etc. I think we took a stance that we were all in this together, and it was up to us. And I made a promise to my entire organization that I and my executive team were going to do everything in our power to keep their jobs, with the understanding that they too needed to keep their ecosystem going. So, for example, if we were going to continue paying you, whether it's please make sure you continue to pay your domestic worker, your cleaner, anyone that works in your ecosystem, because, we've seen it happen that if there's a break in the chain, immediately everybody gets, there's so many other issues that fall on later on down the line. So, we tried our best to kind of keep our own ecosystem going. And in turn, we've got an amazing organization, and everyone else did the same themselves. One of the big things we did as an organization was we reached out to all small SMEs, and actually we gave away about 5 million rands in media value to clients.
Wow. Yeah.
We gave over 100,000 rand to 50 different organizations to assist them where possible to try and get out of this. I mean, it's just, we actually opened up applications on Friday afternoon, and by Monday evening, we had to shut it down. We just had so many people reaching out to us. It was, I actually had salespeople, part of our sales reps that were dealing with some of the clients, calling me in tears, just saying like, I can't. These stories that I'm hearing from small businesses closing and shutting down, it's really, really distressing. And I think, I think for us as a business to see and to get a feel for the actual stress that was going through there, I think that's why we internalized a lot of ourselves and said, look, now's not the time to sell billboards, to sell space, to sell products. Let's just take a long, hard look at ourselves and say, look, it's about us collectively getting through that. And that was one of the reasons I reached out to you as well, Preetesh, just to say, like, our industry as a whole is taking a hammering, and it's up to us as business leaders and to help everyone in every which way we can, which is why I actually reached out to you and to Susie and say, look, how can we get involved with the Loeries? I didn't see this as a sponsorship. I saw this as, as a hand holding, as an assistant to actually, help us get through this time to, as in any way, shape or possible. And then maybe next year or the year after we can start talking commercial terms. But right now, I think it's all about sort of getting through this together.
No, we appreciate it. And I think, and this is why we appreciate your efforts and the efforts of Tractor Outdoor as well, because I think we're in a time where it's tough for the entire industry, it's tough for the entire society. And any way that we can help this ecosystem means that it is a knock-on effect with everyone else getting some sort of upliftment as well. So thank you very much, Simon. Much appreciated. One of the reasons we're here as well, and I think what everyone's curious to have a look at, and you've been kind enough to put through some examples to explain to us and give us some greater insight into of digital out of home and some examples. I want to share some of the slides that you actually brought up, and here we go. Maybe you can talk us through this, Simon, and just give us some greater insights in terms of the digital out-of-home ecosystem, what it entails, and why it's of such value.
So, I mean, I think I changed the presentation somewhat because obviously I think working in the media and most of our clients are media agencies. So a lot of the clients we deal with are the Mindshares, the MediaComs, the Group M's, etc. So I found when in preparation for this discussion, we end up just thinking everyone knows exactly what is going on in our particular department. So for sake of just sort of brief explanation, I mean, digital out of home effectively is a digital billboard that you are able to upload content remotely. It can change as and when you want to. Pretty much, we've got over 100 screens around the country. All of our digital billboards have data LTE routers in them, so you can actually actively engage with them. So where we're seeing now from a global point of view is that digital out of home spending is rising by double digits. It's just behind internet advertising in terms of media spend. We're the only category that has been growing at such a rate, while all other categories are falling by the wayside. Digital out of home advertising and internet advertising has been increasing year on year. So, this is why it's such an incredible time to be involved with digital out of home right now. And I mean, the nice thing about digital is that you can do pretty much anything. You can upload content in the mornings. If you're a McDonald's and you wanted to sell breakfast specials at 6 o'clock, you can actually then do breakfast specials at 6 o'clock, lunch specials, and then you can do dinner specials later on down the line at no extra cost. You're able to put on you can do that. Just put onto the next slide there, please, Preetesh. I mean, if you and the next one. From a dynamic content point of view, the next one, sorry. Yeah. So from a dynamic content point of view, you can use our billboards or any billboards in digital out of home matter for any purpose. You can, for example, you can use weather as a trigger for whatever advert plays. So for example, Woolworths could send us 25 different creatives and they can say, okay, for creative one, it's a lady wearing a short skirt or something like that. When the weather goes above 25 degrees, flight that advert. If it's windy outside, there's another advert that's pertaining to that. If it's cold outside, you can have jumpers and you can have jackets. So you can actually create dynamic content that you can actually change as and when the outside criteria changes.
Now, that's fascinating. So how do you actually do this? I mean, I'm curious in terms of the actual technology and how this happens, because we're saying that basically you can read the environment and based on what's happening in the environment, you can serve content that's relevant to that time right now. But how do you actually do this?
So all of our screens have media players. Basically, every single one of our screens has the small computer in it. And those computers speak to we have a digital content team that sits in Cape Town. And you simply create triggers within the system saying, as soon as the temperature hits a certain threshold, it'll just have a cache of adverts that it just goes into, grabs that and flights it as well. So, it's, the other examples of, we can do live sporting events, for example. We can actually have an example of, we can have split the screen in two. You can have an advert for, Heineken on the left-hand side. You can have the live score with commentary pulled off from another API onto that as well, saying, great try scored by Sia, share a Heineken, or something like that. So it just creates, digital out of home is a far more engaged medium than we've ever seen before. And it's just going from leaps and bounds at the moment.
Wow, I find that fascinating. What else? Should I move on to the next slide?
Just move on to the next slide. So I think for way of explanation, next slide, sorry. When trying to explain digital out of home to those that aren't familiar, I always use the example of the British Airways campaign, which actually it's an old campaign. It was pretty much it's the granddaddy of dynamic digital out of home. It won numerous awards, but it was actually a campaign that British Airways did in London in 2013. And if you don't mind playing the video, it's pretty self-explanatory.
I love that. I've watched this ad and I've watched this case study. I can't tell you how many times, and it still always brings a smile to my face. Always brings a smile.
Look, I don't know. I couldn't actually hear the audio on my side, but I'm assuming everyone else did. But I think I always use that as an example because it's a very simple way of explaining the effectiveness of digital out of home. So there's 2 points, which the amazing thing about that is obviously the dynamic content that exists in that, but also the wonderful thing about digital out of home is that it actually lives not only on the billboard itself, but it actually lives. I think you'll probably realize that, I don't know, call it maybe 100,000 people actually saw that billboard at the time doing that. But the fact that this lived online and it's got 350 million views, that's the power of digital out of home and the power of out of home and how it interacts with social, which is an amazing way of actually telling a story. So quite often, a lot of these campaigns, while effective in their own space, they live online for so much longer. And obviously your value actually is by the shareability and the social nature of the campaign.
Yeah, you're right. Because this was, I can't say, I've got so many things blocking my screen.
2013.
2013.
Yeah.
It does not feel like a 7-year-old campaign to me. But
it is. There've been a number of amazing campaigns that have come out of this, but I think this is still the one that everyone kind of points to. It goes like, that was the first time digital out of home really came to its own, and people really realized the true power of actually what we can do.
Great. And you have more examples as well. So should we look at the next?
Look, so I mean, yeah, and I've got a few more examples on here. So it's the next slide. So a lot of the examples, I mean, the purpose of my discussion today is actually just more about is less about telling you about myself or Tractor or anything like that. It's more just about showing the capabilities and trying to inspire as many people as possible to just to understand what we can do in the medium. I mean, there's a great example here of, if you want to just play the next video, this was in 2018 for Fox Sports for the World Cup.
Oh, that's a really nice. Tell us more about this. Tell us more about what Fox was
I mean,
trying to
so this was done by Posterscope Worldwide, and actually, you see, we've got Livia from Posterscope South Africa here. So hi, Liv. It was a campaign. So this was actually done. It was a number of digital billboards that were dotted around the US and multi states across the US, and effectively they had a team of about. They had the creative director, they had the marketing director, a Posterscope, and one other person, and they actually had a WhatsApp group with the content that they were about to put on. And so whenever there was a goal scored or something like that, they were able to then do live commentary on what they were going to post in terms of exactly where it needs to go and what areas it needs to go to. So as soon as there was some event that took place in the World Cup that was of consequence, they were able to collectively, as a marketing team and a creative team, put together the copy and then send it to their digital team, that was then disseminated across all of the digital billboards around that. So in a matter of minutes from actually deciding on the copy. So the immediacy, so the reason I put this in here is just to kind of highlight the immediacy of these kind of campaigns, where you can have your traditional campaign, you can actually have your normal campaign and campaign running, and you can just have a sort of a box on the side where you can actually update as a brand, as and when you want to, whenever you want to. And that's not something you can do in television. You can't do that in print. You battle to do that with internet. So that's really how digital managed to differentiate itself from the rest of the categories.
In terms of the creatives that needs to be prepared, I know a lot of people are concerned in terms of adding complexity where it's not needed. How much complexity is this? Is it really just difficult, or is it something that's really simple to do?
It's actually from a creative point of view, the creativity is pretty simplistic, but it can be complicated, but there are ways of actually just making it uncomplicated. For example, just a lot of these, the software and the programs that you get right now, we work with some amazing partners, both mainly internationally, that actually help us with our content creation. And it's normally as simple as having an API that you just plug into a screen, and then you just feed into that. And so you just basically, you can write whatever text and copy into the API that feeds into the digital management software that runs your network, and then that just gets disseminated across the network.
Yeah, because what I'm picking up from this to the consumer, and if I had to put myself in the place of the consumer, this seems very complex, because as you interact with it, it seems like a high level complexity. But in actual fact, it seems that in order to deliver this based on the technology that's available, it's not that complex if you just apply your mind to it and just spend a little time on it.
Look, I mean, you've got to, I mean, like I said, every single one of the screens have to have some kind of a micro PC and
Yeah.
a media player or screen player that runs with it. So with the right software, you can generally, pretty much the sky's the limit of what you can and can't do. And it's constantly changing. I mean, uh, there's an industry that's growing, that's coming out of digital out of home at the moment, when new things are constantly being added. I mean, I spoke earlier about, you know, the fact is you can actually have your, if you connect to a Wi-Fi, there's a company in the UK, Ocean Outdoor, they offer free Wi-Fi across their digital network. Now,
Yeah.
if you are able to access that Wi-Fi network, it can pick up the MAC address on your phone, and then you are able then to, in the split second of you walking past that billboard, it grabs your MAC address. It can then cross-reference that to your browsing history and start throwing you adverts based on your browsing history. So it might pick up that you at some point might have been searching for a BMW, and then you could be walking down the street in New York, for example, and they've got those digital ads on the pavement. It can suddenly start feeding you information based on for Mercedes. I mean, I actually saw it. I was in New York a couple of years ago, and I actually saw it working in action when I was browsing galleries. And I literally came within 10 meters of one of their digital bus shelters there, and immediately it started showing me different options and different galleries that were actually showing in other places in the area that I was looking for as well. So it's amazing. I mean, the technology, I mean, I do need to put a caveat that as an industry in South Africa, we aren't quite there yet. Mainly in part because a lot of our digital out of home is roadside digital. So a lot of our developments taking place, big digital billboards and highways and the like. And a lot of these interactive campaigns work very well when you're in a pedestrian environment and you're able to interact with that. So a lot of our media partners that have digital advertising in shopping malls, etc., are perfectly positioned to do that. And, you know, but roadside digital, there are certain merits to the advantages to digital out of home and roadside, but a lot of these interactive campaigns work well when you're in a place of convergence or some kind of mall or interactive environment where you can actually interact with the screen.
Well, we sit in a lot of traffic, so I'm sure eventually if you sit in enough traffic, it'll work even in the roadside environment. But I think what I'm impressed about, as I said, is the fact that the creative is not, you don't have to be overly complicated in the creative. You've got the technology exists out there, and as time goes by, I think I can see out of home growing and evolving and really being able to adapt to the challenges of the environment that we have.
I know 100%. I mean, I see Primedia Outdoor, one of the guys that work in the same category. I see Georgia Wilkins is on this call as well. They did a fantastic campaign last year for Mini, where they actually were able to time the billboard for Mini exactly in time to the digital billboard and to the advert playing on the radio. So you could be in traffic, and all of a sudden, you know, the ad comes on the radio, and immediately you see an advert for Mini on the digital screen as well. So, I mean, those are a lot of amazing concepts that are homeborn, you know, and so we're gradually learning to interact with our own roadside digital billboards to come up with some creative stuff.
Yeah, what I love is we're leading. We can potentially lead this category based on the challenges that we have. But would you like to look at another example? Maybe we can.
Next slide.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's the video. So this is a little bit more simplistic, but this actually can work quite well. This was an advert for Skoda, and they had, I think actually I wrote it down here. They had 157 digital screens around the country, so how it worked was that they had a picture of their vehicle in a particular environment, and then they were able to put traffic, how far it would take you to drive in their Skoda based on today's traffic. Or the current traffic within that. So, and all you needed to do is they put a GPS location of where that screen was and a GPS location of where that image or that place, the tourist destination was. And they were able to then be able to say, right, from where you are right now, it'll take you 4 hours and 52 minutes to get here with the Skoda, you know. And it just moves away from, it just makes it a bit more contextual, you know. It makes it a little bit more exciting. It's better than just looking like a traditional billboard on a display, and it just makes it a little bit more interactive. And obviously, you know, at rush hour, that number went up because the traffic was worse and it went down. So obviously people look at that ad and it becomes a bit more interactive, and it becomes a bit more, they remember it a lot more.
No, that's amazing. I think we need this now. I think there's a lot of us who want to be traveling at this time and we can't, and we're stuck at home. This would be amazing to be able to, when you go out for your little shopping run, to be able to see a digital billboard like this that goes, eventually you'll be able to be in For me in
Just
Joburg, in Cape Town.
side conversation. There's actually I got found an app online called Crowd App that does exactly that right now. It's gone to basically they've taken every single pharmacy and every single shopping mall, Woolies and Pick and Pay and Checkers, put it on a map, and you can actually look at which are the busiest ones and which are the quietest
Wow.
ones. So you can choose. In the time of COVID, you can now decide which one you want to go to. So you can, I'll send you a link after this. I'll put it onto the website. But you can actually open the app and say, where is the quietest Woolworths to me right now? And it'll go, boop, there it is. And then you can actually, and then when is it? So yeah. So slight digression, but that technology is there.
No, that's a good digression. Woolworths is one of our partners, and we're launching the Woolworths student portfolio bootcamp next week and doing stuff. But I'm thinking, imagine how amazing it would be on a digital billboard like this. I'm going out to go shopping, and I've got an idea. I'm going to a certain Woolies to actually go shopping, and the billboard goes, by the way, did you know that if you drive maybe a kilometer down the road, the Woolies a kilometer down the road will have less.
And you know what? That
would be amazing.
Again, so this is one of the reasons why I would love to, promote the medium, because that's entirely possible. All you need to do is you just take in the Google ad feed from the traffic data from that Woolies and compare them to all the other Woolies in that area. And that's simple enough just to get out there and communicate that. So which is actually, again, a slight segue, which is why I'm, chatting to the Loeries to try and actually create digital out of home as a category. I know we've started having discussions to this, but I think, it's such an amazing medium, and it needs to be recognized. It needs to have its own kind of space in the industry right now. Because some of these incredible ideas that are coming out now, and I just think the more aware people are and the industry is to the creativity and the immediacy that you can do with digital out of home, I think the more and more creative ideas we're going to be getting.
Agree. Let's watch the space, as I say to everyone. We're always evaluating our categories and changing it, and I think we like to go where the innovation is, and it does seem like the innovation is going to right now.
Okay, next slide. So this is another. No, next slide. This is another example, and this was a fantastic campaign. And it's so Spotify at the end of 2018 wanted to communicate and celebrate its users as much as possible. And they were able to take in, because obviously everyone knows if you've got a Spotify account, you put in your address and where you're based. So they were able to take all the digital billboards in and around various Spotify users and was able to tell them exactly and celebrate their playlist. So if you can just play the video.
Yeah. Amazing. I have not seen this before. I look forward to my Spotify report every single year, because they send you this report in terms of what music you've been listening to, what was your top music, and it'd be amazing to actually share it in this kind of platform.
Well, but just my Spotify playlist is somewhat changed. I used to quite enjoy the curated Discover playlist that they used to send us at the end of the year. But now since I've got a toddler, my playlist algorithm's just gone out the window right now. I've literally gone from, all the stuff I used to listen to, and suddenly there's white noise coming in there and there's something else coming over that side. So it's all a little bit, it's all over the place. I think I need to get a few separate Spotify accounts for the house, actually.
Oh yeah, you don't Baby Shark dominating Simon
Walls. No. That's yeah. It does pop up now and again randomly.
Yeah, no, but I think what's amazing is to be able to. So for me, what's interesting in this example is, as a consumer and as somebody who has a Spotify account, to be able to share what I'm listening to, because I find it so interesting. Because when I got it, I immediately sent it on to my wife, and we're like, have a look at this, because my playlist goes I don't have any defined regional playlist. So it said I
Mm.
listened to music from, I think, about 34 different countries
Wow.
in 2019. I like
Yeah.
music, anything, as long
Yeah.
as it's, and to be able to share it like this, to have other people see this, that sounds like, yeah, very interesting. I can see the value to Spotify as well.
Yeah, I've been having an ongoing battle with some friends about that who keep sending me stuff on iTunes playlists, and I'm like, don't do iTunes. It's one of those Spotify somehow their algorithm, it just somehow I don't know what they're doing to the algorithm, but they seem to understand you a lot better. Because I mean, I don't know. I think it's because obviously a lot of your playlists get whatever you've got in your playlist, and because you and I have the same songs, it'll obviously interact like that. But it's phenomenal. They somehow just managed to hit the nail on the head every single time they send you one of those playlists.
Agree, completely agree. What else are we looking at today? What else are you?
And then there's a couple more slides after that. There's another one after this. It's the United Airlines one. If you could just go next slide. Now, there were two. So basically, there's two airports. Those of you that know, there's two airports in New York. There's JFK and LaGuardia, and there's been a constant battle as to which is the best airport to fly out of New York. So again, this was a campaign that was run by Postascope again, where they were able to take out digital billboards and tell you exactly how far every single one of those billboards, because most people just assume that JFK was the easiest airport to get to by virtue of the fact that there's public transport that operates towards that now. And then obviously what they did was they took out a bunch of digital billboards, and you were able to tell exactly, for example, on that image there, from here, it's 1 hour 29, and then it's actually 46 minutes to LaGuardia as well. And it's context. It's just putting a billboard in context and actually being able to explain to a point extremely efficiently and extremely cleverly. Again, to your earlier point about not wanting to not wanting to complicate an advert. This is the simplest, most easiest way to use digital out of home. And it's a very easy way to do it. You put in the GPS location of JFK, GPS location of LaGuardia, and the GPS location of that particular digital billboard at the time. And it just immediately does live traffic feeds between that. So again, very easy to implement, very simple, but very effective.
Well, what's amazing is anyone who's been to New York knows that LaGuardia has a terrible reputation. Terrible. People absolutely hate it. But the reality is it's a perfectly fine airport to fly out of if you want to save time, because you've got the combination of New York's traffic, which is terrible, and trying to get to these airports. And I can see the campaign was basically Fly United out of New York. So obviously they're trying to get people to fly out of a totally different airport over there as New York as well. So so that's fascinating. It's fascinating that you can actually use this to direct people and direct traffic into a certain area as well for future.
No, and it's also, this is very easy to do on a lot of our existing networks around South Africa right now. Again, because this kind of artwork would work extremely well in roadside digitals and the like.
Great.
I've got one more slide after that. Oh no, I've got a couple. No, there's one. So this one I put on, it's the Hiscox Insurance. It was just next slide. So this particular advert was, it was a cyber, it was a little bit more it's a bit more of a creative use of digital out of home. And what they did is that it was to promote cyber security, and they actually created a virus, a cyber virus, a computer virus, and then they actually had a live screen to show how that virus was spreading across the network. So just play the video here and you can have a look at it.
Yeah.
Small and medium businesses are disproportionately affected by cybercrime. Everybody is a target.
On average, we received about 23,000 attacks per day, and at a peak, we saw 61,000.
For many businesses, just getting back up and running can cost them a huge amount of money. Insurance can help us, guide us through this maze of cybersecurity and what to do. Critically, it can help us get up and running again after an attack.
Now, this example is more, so this was just more of a creative example. This was one billboard that they set all that up. So a lot of this is more of an activation, but using digital out of home. This wouldn't be automated across a number of digital screens. So this was just a once-off site that they did, and it's amazing to be able to see. And they were able to see and show digitally exactly how many attacks they were getting on the digital screen itself.
How complicated is it to do something like this? Because I mean,
this is above my pay grade. this is something. No. So so for example, we do work quite closely with a lot of digital teams now and again for depending on the criteria. So dynamic content in terms of being able to automate advertising, that is quite easy to do in terms of some of the software. But obviously when you get to bespoke work like this, we would pull in the digital teams, we would pull in programmers, and we would pull in guys to actually help work us to come up with a solution in that.
Okay, so if you do want something a little bit more complicated, all you really need to do is you go start a rest of the campaign, work together, and as a digital out-of-home supplier, you can actually assist with more complicated campaigns as well.
Yeah, by all means. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's we love working. We've done so many campaigns over the last few years, traditional out-of-home campaigns and some digital out-of-home campaigns where we've just been sitting with the client direct, and they've said, can we do this? And we just go out and actually see if we can implement it. I think, and again, this is part of my reason why I wanted to get involved with the Loeries and actually speak to the creative industry, because not taking anything away from my amazing media partners and agencies that we work with right now, but quite often the creativity construct actually happens at the creative director level, at the creative department level, and then gets fed into the media departments, who then go out to, rather than, and quite often the media agencies take a brief from the creative departments and just sort of send an email out to the media industry saying, can you do this? And where it's quite nice to actually work hand in glove with the creative team to say, look, let's not sidestep the media agencies, let's pull the media agency partners and let's all sit at the table and go, what can we do? These are the technologies, because we as an industry, we know what the technologies are. We need to be able to communicate that as best as possible to the creative directors and to the creative teams, is to say, like, this is what you can do, and this is what you can, and this is how much better your campaign can be, rather than you trying to tell us, can you do this, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, Simon, if you had to look at the digital out-of-home category in South Africa to date, what's the most innovative campaign you've seen to date? Something that's wowed you?
I mentioned Prime Media Outdoors done an amazing campaign. I think they've got an amazing team that's come up with some incredible ideas, and I think they're doing a lot of great work. We did a campaign in Cape Town specifically around the drought, where we partnered with a local app developer, and we developed essentially, we had all our digital billboards in Cape Town were color-coded, and we had a live feed into the water levels and the weather patterns that actually happened in and around Cape Town. So when it rained and the water levels went up, a message came up on the digital billboard saying it rained by X amount, and that was a live feed into the Cape Town's water department, and it came up saying the dams have gone up by X amount. You need to save water, or the dams have gone down by X amount, you need to start doing some other mitigating circumstances. So I think, that was quite, but I think at the moment from a lot of these campaigns that have been happening have been media owner led. And I think it'll be nice to actually start getting a bit more agency led campaigns where people come to us and actually, with ideas that we can implement as well. So we are working on a couple of interesting campaigns, which should be coming to the fore in the next month or two with some of our media agency partners. But I think we just, as an industry, specifically in South Africa, we're starting to turn a corner. I think a lot of people are seeing the advantages of digital out of home and are really opening up to the idea of actually doing some more creative work.
Great. And I just say hello to Lerato Mapetsa, who sent us a comment, not related to the talk, but I think Lerato has just recognized my background from some work I did with the media with the SABC. So thanks for your comment, Lerato. It's the funniest things that you get recognized. I think it also shows that as we're speaking about campaigns, like I did this interview with the SABC, which Lorato is recalling, just purely based on the visuals in the background. But it's the same thing as well. I find myself that even when I drive past a billboard, because we used to sit in traffic for such a long period of time, like I'll see some things and then it'll give me a trigger when I might be in a store environment or somewhere else, especially when it's a unified campaign that ties in the same visuals to everything that I'm actually seeing.
And I mean, that's why out of home is so good, because the closer you get to the point of purchase, that's when you start making most of your decisions. So if you are able to follow the consumer from a brand campaign all the way down the line to moments before you stepping into a store and activate that advert as before you step into the store for the point of purchase, I think that's when the efficacy of out of home really does work.
Great. We have one more example, don't we? I think.
Yes, one more, I think. Yeah, no, go to the next one.
Sure.
And so this was another, so this, I put this one again, just to highlight how the location specific artwork can work quite nicely, because I think one of the problems, not necessarily a problem with out of home, but advertising when it's contextual, advertising when it's localized, advertising when it means something to the surrounding vicinity, captures people's attention far more than just a traditional ad a print ad that you just flighted on multiple billboards. And I think this particular advert for Reckitt and Benckiser, and not Johnson & Johnson's, as we discussed earlier, was a yeah.
So go for it, then I'll tell.
Okay, cool. If you could just play this video and we can go for it.
Sure. That's it. So I'm pretty biased for everyone who's tuning in as well. I worked at Reckitt Benckiser for a few years. Loved it. It's just an organization that focuses on some of the products that you wouldn't normally keep top of mind. There's household cleaning, there's healthcare, and all of this stuff. Not necessarily the most exciting products, but somehow through the execution, and this is an example that we're looking at right now, they bring out so much of excitement. And that's because they truly understand the medium that they work with.
Yeah. And again, the nice thing about this particular campaign is that it's not something, you couldn't have achieved this on any other medium. You know, it's the only way to actually have that sort of contextually relevant messages communicated was through digital out of home and out of home. And I think digital, the nice thing about this is that it's obviously through digital, you are able to have so many different copies and so many different displays, and without having to do traditional, print and flight and all that kind of stuff with other billboards. So I love this campaign specifically just because it is such an amazing use of location specific content.
Mm-hmm. And the number one question that everyone also always asks is, how expensive is this versus traditional billboard?
So traditionally, I mean, I think we're in a market in South Africa where it's supply and demand. So I've seen I mean, we haven't had enough supply in Cape Town where we operate, we're headquartered, and to a certain degree in Johannesburg as well, simply because there's not enough inventory out there. So as the demand for digital out of home has increased, so has the prices. But I think we're getting to a point now, an inflection point in our industry, where prices are starting to stabilize somewhat, and we're starting to realize that prices aren't dictated by supply anymore, or demand. It's available now. The inventory is available. So I think we are seeing the leveling off of prices. But we're about to launch a new pricing mechanism, which is a share of voice pricing, where, because a digital billboard is made up of a number of different impressions, we're allowing advertisers to buy 100% of those impressions for a day, which will cost you obviously the full rate card. But if you've only got 1,000 Rand, you can buy one impression or a certain 2% of those impressions. So specifically coming out of COVID and Corona, we're wanting to take to the market the ability for small businesses who've only got a small budget to be able to activate and access our medium but still pay the same prices, but just get less display as some of the larger businesses as well. So you as a small drinks company can advertise alongside Coca-Cola. It'll just be less number of adverts that are showing on the screen.
No, I think that's amazing, purely because I think the challenge with small businesses, and we've been working with a lot of small businesses and chatting to them as well, is it's all about cash flow. It's always about cash flow. And they'll never have the cash flow to make the big upfront investment. But this allows them to sample and experience the medium and then choose to invest if they need more inventory, right?
Yeah, and also, I mean, as you say, it's an easy entry point into it, and it's an amazing way to actually get exposure. And I think the nice thing about, particularly about out of home and digital, is that it's nice to see your brand, and even if your brand's up on a billboard, it just means a lot more to people, and people like taking photos and understanding that they're part of the big time. Once your brand's on a billboard, it's as though they've made it.
Exactly. And that hasn't changed. Corbus the Toy has a nice comment and says, love the KY campaign. A great example of cocky, no pun intended, relevant, I'm sure, relevant and long-lasting advertising people tend to remember. Simon, your comment on more collaboration between media owners, media agencies, and very importantly, creative agencies is very relevant. Great talk.
Thank you.
I mean, these are such great insights. Simon, we're almost out of time, and maybe as we go into the last 2-3 minutes or so, I mean, COVID's obviously been a challenge, and where do you see the industry going? I mean, do you see recovery going from here? What do you think is coming next for all of us in the industry?
I mean, so like I said at the start of this chat, I mean, we've pretty much turned the taps on selling and trying to promote advertising and stuff. And we started working with our partners and to see how we could help them. And I think, we had everyone's budgets have gone out the window for this year. And I think that's just a given. But I think what we've started to do and how we've communicated to the team, or my team, we've just said, look, let's just beat the previous month. Let's not worry about we off target by how far. Let's just continually look back. And we had a terrible, I mean, our April, May, June, and I'm sure that was across the board, it was terrible. But the numbers have slowly started to turn a corner. I think we're at the bottom of that curve. And I've just, and what I've said to my team as well is let's just beat the previous month. Let's just start working together and slowly, inch by inch, step by step, get out of this. And I think, we're open to discussions, and we've been working with a lot of brands to try and help them get out of the mess that they found themselves. And we've been quite creative in terms of, in some instances, we've actually said to clients, look, we understand that you don't have any money, your budget's no. So you know what? You don't have to pay for advertising for your month 1, month 2, and then we'll make it back. Once you've got, we're happy to work with you to actually get yourself to get a foot up in the industry, in the markets, to actually being able to pay the bills later on down the line. And I think because, where we found ourselves is that if we are too aggressive with clients, and if we are, we're not going to have any clients at the end of this, and at the end of the day, the winners are those people that work together, that collaborate. And I'm a big believer in collaboration. I mean, earlier on this talk, there's some things that my business can't achieve, but it's more about just, promoting the category and actually promoting the industry as a whole, because I think we as an industry, we need to work together. We need to hold hands. We need to kind of get through this together. I know it does sound a little bit trite, but I mean, I sent an email out to my team the other day, and I think Robert F. Kennedy once was quoted in saying that the Chinese symbol for crisis is made up of opportunity and danger. And it's so true. It's just, we need to, we're in the middle of quite a dangerous pandemic right now, but there are a lot of opportunities. And I think the opportunities aren't financial. The opportunity is about building deeper relationships with clients, about, the relationships we build when the chips are down are the relationships that we're going to have a lot longer. And I think I'm a big believer in the relationships we make now are long-term relationships that we're going to keep going to the future. So look, if we have to lose a bit of money and we don't do it for the next few months, that's fine. I think the relationships that we're going to get out of this is going to be amazing.
Great. Got more ads playing there in the background as well. Simon, thank you so much for joining us and giving us all of these amazing insights. If anyone does want to keep up with you, how can people contact you and keep up with you and the work that you're doing?
They can visit my website, www.tractoutdoor.com. All my details are there. The company details are there. I think otherwise, the website's probably the best way to do it. All my details are there. My office details are there, so everyone can get a hold of me that way.
Fantastic. Simon Wall, CEO of Tractor Outdoor, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for sharing all of those amazing examples as well. If anyone does want to see this again, it's available immediately on Facebook, on the Loeries site on Facebook. So please go there and have a look at it. We'll also have it up in a few days on YouTube as well. So thank you everyone for joining us again for Loeries Creative Hour. Looking forward to having you all join us again next week. Simon Wall, thank you once again.
Cool. Preetesh, thank you so much. All the best. Take care. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.